Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. News of their return instantly spread to the rest of the capital. Very soon, a Soul Engineer Legion flew out from the center of Radiant City. It was apparent that they had been given special permission to fly. Even though this was not Huo Yuhao's first time seeing the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion, he was still very impressed by them. Every single one of their soul engineers was wearing a thick human-shaped soul tool, which could barely conceal their powerful auras. Compared to them, the Beast Lord rank Soul Engineer Legions looked very juvenile. The Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion consisted of only Soul Doluo. Their 100-man team were all 8-ringed Soul Doluo, or rather Class 8 Soul Engineers. It was immensely frightening that the Sun Moon Empire was able to gather so many powerful Soul Engineers and put them in a regimented environment. They were essentially Shu Tianran's trump card to anyone who tried to threaten the Sun Moon Empire. On top of that, Radiant City was continually improving and enhancing its defenses. Hence, Radiant City was also called the #1 city on the entire continent. Huo Yuhao waited quietly behind Zhu Zi. As the 100 Soul Engineers from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion descended from the sky, a Soul Engineer in a human-shaped soul tool stepped forward to bow and greet Zhu Zi. War God Empress, His Majesty has an order for you. He wants you to lead all commanders and generals who are vice-commanders and above into the city. His Majesty will welcome all of you personally at the palace. The rest of the 3 Soul Engineer Legions shall remain here and await further orders. The Soul Legion commanders, who were standing behind Zhu Zi, couldn't help but reveal a look of displeasure after hearing what that Soul Engineer had said. After all, they had just returned victorious after destroying the Heavenly Soul Empire. Instead of being welcomed in a ceremonious way, they had only sent a Soul Engineer from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion to receive them. This was something they found hard to accept. Upon sensing the dissatisfaction behind her, Zhu Zi raised her hand to demand silence from them. Following which, she went down on one knee before acknowledging the order. Afterward, Zhu Zi removed the helmet of her human-shaped soul tool before passing it to Huo Yuhao, who was standing by her side. Following which, she led the vice-commanders and commanders into Radiant City. That representative from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion immediately clarified, War God Empress, His Majesty has granted special permission for you to fly in with the commanders under you. However, Zhu Zi shook her head and said, it's okay. How can we fly in just like that after returning from a war? That would be very disrespectful to His Majesty. We will walk in. I am sorry that I will have to trouble all of you to walk in with me to see His Majesty. After finishing her sentence, she did not even turn her head, as she continued walking in the direction of the palace. As they were only her personal guards, Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong naturally could not follow her. After all, Shu Tianran had already said that he only wanted the commanders and vice-commanders to enter the city. This meant that he did not want to see any soldier or guard enter the city. Hence, both of them could only wait here. Of course, Zhu Zi knew that Shu Tianran was not trying to ill-treat her. His decision was founded solely on safety considerations. The 3 Soul Engineer Legions should naturally not be allowed to enter Radiant City right after returning from a battle. But because of this, Zhu Zi could be vulnerable if a Soul Master from the Holy Ghost Church were to attack her now. Hence, Shu Tianran had sent the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion to protect her. Of course, Zhu Zi would not share her guess with the people around her. It was better that her commanders and vice-commanders were displeased with Shu Tianran. It would only be advantageous to her plan. After watching Zhu Zi leave, Tang Wutong transmitted a message to Huo Yuhao. What should we do now? Huo Yuhao revealed a faint smile and said, let's just wait here. I'm sure Zhu Zi will settle everything for us. When we returned to Radiant City, I could sense that she has become normal again. When she is in her usual state, she is definitely way better than us when it comes to military and political affairs. We should just let her handle the problem. Tang Wutong rolled her eyes and said, It seems like you have a lot of trust in her. Huo Yuhao simply replied, there are no permanent enemies. This time, she needs our help. Even if she were to disregard the friendship we had in the past, she would not do anything disadvantageous to us before our mission is accomplished. Besides, I have spread out my spiritual detection as much as possible. If she harbors any ill intentions against us, we can definitely react in time. Okay. Tang Wutong did not say any more words of jealousy. One of the military officers, who had been ordered to stay behind, gave them instructions to rest up. The Soul Engineer legions started to set up camp where they were. Normally, they would have to set up soul tool deployment areas and install their soul tools to prepare for battle. However, now that they had returned to the outskirts of Radiant City, there was no longer a need for those procedures. In fact, they might even be suspected of treason if they were to do that. Inside the Sun Moon Empire's palace, Tianran was leading the minister and generals under him as he waited by the palace gates silently. Zhu Zi should have entered the city by now. However, she was still out of his sight. As he stared into the distant sky, Tianran could not help but wonder why she had still not arrived. At this instant, a representative from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion flew back and landed not too far from Tianran. He quickly dashed over before kneeling before him. Your Majesty, the War God Empress has led the Imperial Dragon, Evil Eye Tyrant, and Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer legions back to Radiant City. The War God Empress has decided against flying into the city out of respect for you. Hence, she will still need a fair bit of time before she arrives at the palace. After hearing his words, Tianran smiled to himself. Zhu Zi, you have not disappointed me. It seems like you have not allowed your achievements to go to your head. I am very pleased to see that. Where did the War God Empress and the commanders enter Radiant City? The representative quickly answered Tianran's question. Tianran nodded as he turned around to face his ministers and generals. Our War God Empress has been undefeated, and has once again conquered more land for our empire. She has achieved a lot, and deserves to be rewarded. It is also rare that she understands our etiquette, and chooses not to fly into our city. I want all of you to follow me and welcome her. We need to acknowledge the achievements of our army. Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty! The ministers and generals cheered loudly in unison. At this instant, it was possible to tell that all of them had all sorts of expressions written on their faces. However, none of them dared to question what Tianran had just said. The conflict between the army and the Holy Ghost Church was not something which could be hidden. After all, news of how Yi Shishui had tried to ambush the army had already spread back to Radiant City. Now that things had come to this stage, none of the ministers would support the Holy Ghost Church. After all, those evil soul masters were never well liked among them. It was needless to say what the generals felt about the Holy Ghost Church. After all, the War God Empress was one of them. Even though she was the Empress, she had helped secure countless victories for the army and the Empire over the past few years. Now that the Heavenly Soul Empire's land had been added to the Sun Moon Empire, the status of the army and the generals would most likely overtake that of the ministers. Hence, the support the generals and commanders had for Zhu Zi would only increase as the days went by. In fact, they were very impressed by how the War God Empress had volunteered to shoulder the responsibility for the soul engineers under her who had killed the evil soul masters from the Holy Ghost Church. In addition, she had even requested to be relieved from her appointment as the marshal after that incident. How would she not be able to move these naive generals? Even the rich and powerful people within the Sun Moon Empire were now very supportive of Zhu Zi. They would definitely not have any objections now that Tianran wanted to welcome the War God Empress personally. Even though Tianran mentioned that he was going to receive Zhu Zi personally, they were not actually walking quickly towards her and her group of commanders. After all, it was going to be a few kilometers. However, it was not long before Zhu Zi, who was dressed in her fiery red human-shaped soul tool, appeared in Tianran's sight. Tianran's eyesight was very good. He could see very clearly that she was not wearing her helmet. Her fatigue was clearly written over her face, even though her eyes showed the determination she had within her. It pained him to know that his empress had suffered so much for him. This is my empress. If only I could. She really deserves my love. She has been fighting so hard for my ambitions and for the empire. Yet I am still so wary of her. Juzi, tell me, how is my heart not supposed to ache for you? As this thought drifted across his mind, Tianran quickened his steps as he moved forward to receive her. Similarly, Juzi also increased her speed as she strode quickly towards Tianran, without using any of her soul tools. When they were about 10 meters from each other, Juzi knelt down before him. Your Majesty. Her voice was trembling as tears streamed down from her face. By now, Tianran was a lot more used to his prosthetic leg. He quickly strode forward and hugged Juzi, who was kneeling before him. Juzi hugged him tightly as she started to bawl loudly. The ministers and generals knew they should not move closer or interrupt this moment. They could tell how important Juzi was to Tianran from the way he was hugging her. The commanders and vice-commanders, who had followed Juzi, also knelt down. As they watched her cry, tears welled up in their eyes. This was especially true for Xie Xianchen, the legion commander of the Evil Eye Tyrant Soul Engineer Legion. He was already very distraught, after seeing so many of his subordinates die at the hands of the Holy Ghost Church. After returning to the army and seeing how the war god Empress had suffered so much for everyone, one could only imagine the intensity of the emotions pent up within him. The vice-commanders of the Imperial Dragon Soul Engineer Legion were also bawling uncontrollably. After all, almost the entire legion had been destroyed. On top of that, they had no idea where their soul tool supplies had gone. No one hated the Holy Ghost Church more than them. Previously, they were also the ones who had killed the greatest number of evil soul masters from the Holy Ghost Church. Tianran spoke gently, "Come on, don't cry, my dear Empress. Don't cry. All is well now that you have returned. I will make everything right for you." After crying for a while longer, Juzi slowly broke free from Tianran's embrace before taking 2 steps back. Following which, she kowtowed once more to Tianran. "I, the marshal and commander of the 3 armies, Juzi, shall now hand my appointment back to your Majesty." As she spoke, she handed her commander's seal back to Tianran. Tianran did not take the seal from her. Instead, he said, "Rise, my Empress. Rise, my loyal subjects and commanders. All of you have done a lot for our empire. I have decided to reward all of you for expanding the land of the Sun-Moon Empire. Follow me back to the palace." All of the ministers and commanders then followed Tianran, as he held Juzi's hand and strolled back to the palace. "Your Majesty, it's my fault for not managing the army well. I am willing to accept any punishment," Juzi whispered to Tianran. However, Tianran shook his head and turned to look at her. Compared to when she had just left, she had become a lot more frail. Her radiant skin had become a little duller. It was clear that she had suffered from a lot of stress during the war. Even Tianran would not deny that Shrek Academy was extremely hard to deal with. Afterward, Juzi had also had to manage the conflict between her commanders and the Holy Ghost Church. One could only imagine the stress she had been under. It was telling how she had opted to return the commander's seal right after she had led the troops back to the capital. "My dear Empress, why are you returning the seal?" Tianran asked Juzi. Juzi lowered her head and answered, "There's no way I can return the trust your Majesty has placed in me. Even though I am very willing to fight for your Majesty, I am but a woman. At the end of the day, a woman will experience moments of fragility at times. Even though I am confident of taking down our enemies in war no matter how strong they are, I am powerless when it comes to some of the pressure coming from within our empire. I really want to be responsible for the hundreds of thousands of troops under me. But I am starting to doubt my ability to protect them. This responsibility is simply too heavy for me. It's not that I want to push it away, but I really recognize the limits of my abilities. Hence, I urge your Majesty to look for someone else who is more capable. I only wish to be by your Majesty's side, and spend time with your majesty and little Yunhan. Tears immediately welled up in Juzi's eyes the moment she mentioned her son. Shu Tianran could even feel that her hands were trembling. That's true. Even though she is exceptionally capable, she is but a woman, a lady who simply wants to stay by her husband and child's side. It's so unfortunate that the kid is not my own son. If not. It pains Shu Tianran to see Juzi like this. He consoled her and replied, "It's okay. You have already done very well. It is definitely time for us to settle some of the things you have mentioned. You can rest assured that I will definitely fight for the justice you deserve. You are definitely the person I can trust the most, and also the person who is closest to me. It's time for you to rest up properly now that you have returned. The army also needs to rest and be resupplied. We need to consolidate our control over the Heavenly Soul Empire. After all, I am still decently young. We are not in a hurry to conquer the entire continent. I will make sure that you will not have any other worries the next time you set off on campaign. As of now, no one is more deserving to be the commander of the three armies. I want you to remain as the marshal." After returning to the palace, Shu Tianran immediately announced the rewards that the army and the commanders would get. Even though he did not seem to give many rewards to Juzi, it was clear that he still placed a lot of trust in his war god empress. He was definitely going to end his relationship with the Holy Ghost Church. That would be the biggest reward she could get. After the three armies received their rewards, Juzi immediately took off her human-shaped soul tool. She dashed to the back of the palace to look for her son. Following which, she stayed away from the main hall of the palace for the next 3 days. In fact, she did not even contact any of the commanders she had brought back. She simply spent all her time with her son as she tried to be the best mother possible for little Yunhan. Shu Tianran was naturally very pleased to see this. She definitely fit his idea of a good wife. She was capable, loyal and deserving of trust. Most importantly, she did not seem to possess any unwelcome ambitions. Even though he was still unable to get over the fact that he could not have his own child, he believed that this was probably the next best thing. In his eyes, Juzi would not be able to betray him, even if it were for her son. This meant that he could hand over his troops to her without any worries. In the Holy Ghost Church's headquarters. "Mother, even though Shu Tianran has rewarded the army, he did not even mention how they tried to kill us. It seems like he has already decided to give up on us." Zhong Liwu's face was extremely pale as he spoke to Yi Shishui. Yi Shishui was sitting in a seat as she listened to her son with an expressionless face. She said, "Have you finished transporting our resources? Most of them have already been shifted to the Heavenly Soul Empire's land. Even though the Sun Moon Empire has taken over their land, it should take a while before they fully understand the situation over there. By then, we should be able to anchor down over there." Yi Shishui replied, "This time, we have really suffered a lot from this war. Without resting for 100 years, it will be impossible for us to regain the strength that we have lost. I still can't believe that Shu Tianran would actually cut us off after using us. I will not let this matter rest just like this. Once our resources have been completely moved away, I will make sure they pay for this." "Yes." Zhong Liwu's eyes were full of hatred. After fighting with Huo Yuhao, he had hurt his martial soul and sustained several injuries which were extremely damaging to his body. Following which, he was bugged by the matters at the front line. Even now, the title Doluo under him was still unable to explain why the army had suddenly attacked them. In fact, he believed that the Evil Eye Tyrant Soul Engineer Legion's talk about how they and the Imperial Dragon Soul Engineer Legion had been attacked by evil soul masters was a complete joke. However, they were somehow able to produce a fairly persuasive argument. It was then that Yi Shishui had sensed that things were turning bad. The reason why she had chosen to attack the Sun Moon Empire's army was because she had wanted to see how Shu Tianran would react to it. It was important for her to determine his attitude towards the Holy Ghost Church. She knew that Shu Tianran had not pursued the matter with Juzi. Hence, she wanted to increase the pressure on him and see how he would react. However, she did not expect him to not do anything about it. In fact, he simply allowed the Sun-Moon Empire's army to return without saying anything. After seeing that things were turning for the worse, Yi Shishui immediately ordered her people within the Holy Ghost Church to transport the supplies and resources they had gained from the Sun-Moon Empire to their secret lair within the land of the Heavenly Soul Empire. Yi Shishui definitely knew what kind of person Shu Tianran was. He would definitely destroy whoever tried to stop him at all costs. The Holy Ghost Church would definitely not be exempted from this rule. Now, only Shi and Long Xiaoyao could deter him from destroying the Holy Ghost Church. Once both of them were gone, Shu Tianran would definitely snuff them out. Hence, Yi Shishui had already made up her mind to move the Holy Ghost Church's headquarters elsewhere. This would give them precious time to recuperate, while they waited for an opportunity to strike back. She was not too concerned about whether Shu Tianran planned to take down the Holy Ghost Church. After all, she had eyes and ears planted everywhere within the Sun-Moon Empire. The Holy Ghost Church's dominance in the Sun-Moon Empire over the past few years had allowed her to build up an extensive network. She would definitely get hold of any news before he launched an attack on the Holy Ghost Church. After all, she also knew how to use communication soul tools. Mother, how do you plan to get back at the Sun-Moon Empire? I must say that Zhu Zi is a really formidable woman. We should definitely kill her when the first opportunity arises. After we take her down, we will have nothing to fear from Shu Tianran. Even though I don't like that woman, I must say that she's really the best marshal in our generation. She is definitely more capable than the White Tiger Duke of the Star Luo Empire. Zhong Liwu said. Yi Shishui nodded and said, I had already planned to kill her back in the valley. However, she was well prepared back then. This time, Shu Tianran had also sent 100 soul engineers from the Sun-Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion to protect her. Because they were all around her, it would be hard for me to kill her with a single blow. The Sun-Moon Empire has really developed too quickly over the past few years. Soul Masters are becoming more and more worthless. No wonder they could destroy the Heavenly Soul Empire with ease. Liu Wu, I need you to gather all the people we have. I need you to take all the supplies and disciples who are 7-ringed and below with you. Even though I don't think Shu Tianran dares to turn on us yet, we need to prepare for the worst. I will now go and look for him. I need to know what he plans to do with the Holy Ghost Church, and how he plans to answer my questions. As she spoke, Yi Shishui stood up and left the room. Zhong Liwu was startled by his mother's words. Mother, are you sure you won't be in danger? There's no place in this world that is truly life-threatening for me, Yi Shishui replied arrogantly. You must remember that your mother is already an ultimate Doluo. Besides, Long Xiaoyao is also around. The Sun-Moon Empire would definitely have to think twice before meddling with 2 ultimate Doluo. Yes. I will now go and prepare the things you have told me to do. However, please be careful. Don't let your anger hurt your body. Zhong Liwu was showing care and concern for his mother. All right, you may leave now. After Zhong Liwu had left, Yi Shishui was the only person left in this dark room. She seemed to cut a lonely figure as she lowered her head and gazed into the distance. Is it really worth it? You should know that your goal is impossible to attain. Even if I were to support you fully, it would still be impossible. A low, resigned voice echoed within the room. Have you even once tried your best to help me? Yi Shishui asked coldly. A towering figure stepped out of the darkness. He was none other than the Dragon Emperor Doluo, Long Xiaoyao. Long Xiaoyao walked towards Yi Shishui and said, Shishui, stop while you still can. It is impossible for the Holy Ghost Church, a group of evil soul masters, to survive in the long run. No matter where you set up your headquarters, there will still be people who will go after you and try to destroy you. You should know how ambitious Shu Tianran is. Once he has accomplished some of his objectives, he will definitely cut off all ties with the Holy Ghost Church. And it all boils down to the problem of evil soul masters. From the look of things, the Sun-Moon Empire will definitely be able to conquer the entire continent in the near future. When that happens, that will be the end for the Holy Ghost Church. They will definitely emulate what happened back then and try to cleanse the continent of all evil soul masters. Shut up. Yi Shishure suddenly exploded with rage. Long Xiaoyao kept quiet as Yi Shishure's rapid breathing echoed within the room. Is it really worth it? Long Xiaoyao sighed and muttered. Yi Shishure suddenly turned around and stared coldly at Long Xiaoyao. Mu Yan asked me the same question back then. Do you want to answer on my behalf? Long Xiaoyao's body started to shudder vigorously. One could see the sadness in his eyes. After seeing how Long Xiaoyao had reacted to her words, Yi Shishure sighed and said, Forget about it, Xiaoyao. I am in the wrong. I should not have mentioned that. At the end of the day, you have spent more than 100 years with me even if you were wrong back then. This is something Mu Yan and Zhongli Wu's father would never be able to do. I know you are the one who loves me the most. You must have struggled a lot and blamed yourself all these years. Do you know I have long wanted to tell you that I have forgiven you? But I am afraid that once I say that, you will leave me. And when that happens, I will no longer have someone I can trust with my heart. The pain in Long Xiaoyao's eyes had disappeared. Tears started to well up in his eyes instead. Yi Shishure gently leaned on his body and allowed herself to enter his embrace. Now, I have really forgiven you. You don't have to feel bad about that incident anymore. You no longer owe me anything after all that you have done for all these years. Now, you can rest assured and leave. Do what you have always wanted to do. Don't let me burden you. Long Xiaoyao gave her a bitter smile and asked, You have sensed that something bad is about to happen, right? Yi Shishure's body froze. Long Xiaoyao sighed and said, To be honest, it's been a while since you last threatened me with that. However, I have already gotten used to being by your side. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Even though I won't help you with your wrongdoings, I have always protected you and stood by your side. Hence, I am partially at fault for those things you have done. We are already on the same boat. Over the course of these 100 years, I have struggled a lot whenever I saw you kill and nurture your evil soul masters. However, I was willing to bear with the pain and conflict in my heart to stay by your side. This is because my love for you outweighs everything else. I am willing to continue to stay by your side even if I can't stop you from doing what's wrong. However, if karma does strike back at you one day, I am willing to take it on with you. Tears started to stream from Yi Shishure's eyes. She used her fists to hit Long Xiaoyao's chest repeatedly. Why are you so dumb? Why are you so dumb? Long Xiaoyao smiled and hugged her even tighter than before. Because I love you. It's that simple. You were right. I can be proud to say that there's no one in this world who loves you more than I do. Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong had waited quietly for 3 days, but there was still no news from Zhu. However, they learned about how the army was rewarded for their achievements on the battlefield. The 3 Soul Engineer Legions had been given permission to enter the city. They were naturally sent back to where they had been housed previously. Even though the Sun Moon Empire had conquered the Heavenly Soul Empire, they had suffered huge losses. This was especially true considering how many powerful Soul Engineers they had lost. 2 of the 4 Beast Lord-ranked Soul Engineer Legions had been wrecked by their enemies. The 1,000 Soul Engineers they had dispatched to reinforce the others were also completely wiped out. On top of that, they had lost about 5 Class 9 Soul Engineers. Coupled with the resources and supplies they had expended, as well as the Holy Ghost Church problem, the Sun Moon Empire was fairly shaken by the war. Of course, this might also be a good chance for the Sun Moon Empire to start afresh for certain things. As long as they maintained their lead in terms of soul tool technology, it was only a matter of time before they made up for the soul engineers and soul tools they had lost. The illustrious Virtue Hall had finished reconstruction, but it was no longer in the hands of Jing Hongchen. A large amount of money had been invested in all sorts of research. A lot of soul tool technology had been exported to the Heavenly Soul Empire, but the bulk of them were soul tools which were mainly for civilian use. Not a single military-grade soul tool was sent to their newly conquered land. By using those soul tools which were used by civilians, the Sun-Moon Empire, had amassed a huge amount of wealth and resources from the Heavenly Soul Empire. These resources were all useful for the Sun-Moon Empire's military development. As the Sun-Moon Empire continued to improve its human-shaped soul tools, Huo Yuhao had once asked Zhu Zi how their Class 5 and 6 soul engineers were able to use human-shaped soul tools. Even though Zhu Zi did not reveal the answer to his question, Huo Yuhao was able to see a tinge of sadness in her eyes. Huo Yuhao thought about it, and realized that there was only a single possibility. One would need sufficiently strong spiritual power to control a human-shaped soul tool. At least that was the case for the current soul tool technology in use. How was one supposed to improve his or her spiritual power? One would usually find one's spiritual power enhanced after one had attained a higher cultivation. Individuals who were blessed with spiritual-type martial souls could develop their spiritual power separately. Other than these two normal ways, one could also stimulate one's brain artificially to enhance one's spiritual power. If the Sun-Moon Empire had achieved some results in this field, they might have used this method to artificially enhance their soul engineers' spiritual power to make them able to control the human-shaped soul tools. However, this also meant that these soul engineers would lose their potential. They would not be able to improve their cultivation in the future. Xian Zuan had once told Huo Yuhao about how the Sun-Moon Empire had researched ways to heighten a human's spiritual power through methods of stimulation. However, they had never actually practiced them because of the powerful side effects. Xian Zuan had admitted that he had no idea to what extent was the Sun-Moon Empire able to suppress those side effects. If the side effects were truly that harsh, the Sun-Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion might not be that invincible after all. The army was rewarded for their acts of bravery, and was given good food and alcohol for the next 2 days. Subsequently, other than key personnel who were asked to stay behind, the rest of them were given a break. At the end of the day, soul engineers were extremely highly regarded, even within the army. There were not many restrictions imposed on them. It was the same even after they returned to Radiant City. In fact, they were given a 10-day break after they returned. As for how the 3 soul engineer legions planned to replenish their manpower, Huo Yuhao was not clear about that. However, it did not seem to be a big problem, judging from the emotional fluctuations shown by the commanders above. Huo Yuhao had been enveloping the entire military camp with his spiritual detection. One of the most valuable bits of intelligence, which he had gotten, was how the Sun-Moon Empire had planned to take a longer time to reorganize their troops. The military order had already reached the army, which was still waiting at the southern border of the Heavenly Soul Empire. While they were locked in a standstill with the Star Luo Empire, they were being resupplied. The supplies naturally came from the Heavenly Soul Empire. It seemed like the Sun-Moon Empire was really planning on resting up and reorganizing their troops. It did not look like they would go to war anytime soon. Even if Huo Yuhao and Zhu Zi's plan were to fail, the Sun-Moon Empire probably wouldn't launch any major military operations within a year. This was definitely good news. However, this news was still fairly meaningless. After all, it was impossible to verify. Hence, the other empires, especially the Star Luo Empire, must still be on guard and get ready for war. Huo Yuhao had no idea how much the Star Luo Empire had developed in the past few years. He believed that they should have improved a fair bit without the stress and pressure of actually fighting a war. Huo Yuhao couldn't help but think of that man when he was thinking about the Star Luo Empire. He believed that he should really go back and settle that matter once he had taken down Tianran and gotten a confirmation from Zhu Zi that she would not invade either empire in the next 10 years. He felt that it was also time for him to pay his respects to his mother. It pained Huo Yuhao to think about his mother. Even though his intense hatred was already gone, the bitterness and pain were still very present in his heart. Huo Yuhao would often think to himself how great it would be if his mother was still alive. He believed that he would definitely be able to give her a good life with his current abilities. Unfortunately, this was only something he could imagine. He knew that it was impossible to resurrect anyone. No matter how strong he had become, he would never be able to bring his mother back to life. Hence, he must settle that matter. He needed to look for him and get closure. Huo Yuhao knew it was necessary to make things right for his mother. On top of that, he also had scores to settle with that duchess. Huo Yuhao was instantly infuriated by the thought of her. Even if he could choose not to exact revenge on the others, he would never let her go just like this. If not for the duchess, his mother would never have died. Dai Huobin was still young and rash back then, so Huo Yuhao could forgive him. However, the duchess could not be forgiven. After all, his mother would definitely still be alive if not for her. Yuhao. What's on your mind? Tang Wutong squeezed Huo Yuhao's hand. Now that the Soul Engineers were taking a break, Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong naturally left the camp. Huo Yuhao had also changed out from the annoying human-shaped soul tool he had to wear for the past few days. After changing into normal clothes and disguising themselves with some simple makeup, they started to stroll leisurely through the streets of Radiant City. Tang Wutong was really enjoying the way they were walking these streets without any worries. However, she was ultimately still able to sense the change in Huo Yuhao's mood. Huo Yuhao shook his head gently and said, "It's nothing. I was just thinking about my mother." Tang Wutong squeezed his hand and said, "Don't worry too much about it. Once we're done with this, let's go and pay respects to your mother, all right?" Huo Yuhao smiled and said, "That's great. But you should stop calling her my mother. She's now also your mother. I feel so sad that she's unable to see her beautiful daughter-in-law." After finishing his sentence, Huo Yuhao almost choked up with his emotions. Tang Wutong blushed and asked, "Then when do you plan to marry me?" Huo Yuhao replied, "If this thing proceeds smoothly, I will marry you after we have paid respects to my mother. Is that all right?" Tang Wutong was displeased with his answer. "Is this how you propose to a girl?" Huo Yuhao laughed, "I guess not. I will propose to you officially again once we get back." Tang Wutong burst into laughter and said, "There's no need for that. Do you think I'd really care about such things after we've been through so much together? All right, I will promise you. I will definitely try my best to contact my parents once we are done with things over here." What will you do?" Huo Yuhao teased her. "HMPH. I won't tell you." Tang Wutong turned around. This video will end here.